question is, who is he? Who do you think he is? Okay? And how do you obey him? Go to 1 Peter chapter 2. In verse 21. All of it goes back to the obedience that he followed and the persecution that he took. In the verse 21, Peter writes to us, "For to this you were called, because Mashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps." Every time we avoid any kind of something or other, or persecution, whatever comes, they were just avoiding walking in his footsteps anyway. We continue to walk in obedience to the word, and whatever comes, right? He said the blessings are still going to come. It's just the persecution is going to be in there with it, but we're still going to be blessed. I know it's a hard thing to accept, but that's what he said. That's kind of one of them promises you wish wasn't in there, but it is, okay? Go to Acts 24. In Acts 24 and in verse 14. The Apostle Paul, Rav Shaul, said, "But this I confess to you, that according to the way which they call a sect, so I worship the Elohim of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the Torah and in the prophets." That's what they believed. That's what he followed. That's what he believed. All things written in the Torah and in the prophets. That's what Paul said. Go back to Deuteronomy 31. As we were reading down, he said in verse 3, "He will destroy these nations from before you, and you shall dispossess them." Who's going to destroy all those nations? Yahweh is. He's going to destroy them all in advance, right? Verse 6. He said, "Be strong and of good courage. Do not fear, nor be afraid of them. For Yahweh Eloheka, he is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you." Then Moshe called Yehoshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, "Be strong and of good courage, for you must go with this people." Okay, again, we're in Deuteronomy 31 and verse 6. "Be strong and of good courage. Do not fear nor be afraid of them, for Yahweh Eloheka, he is the one who goes with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you." Then Moshe called Yehoshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, "Be strong and of good courage, for you must go with this people to the land which Yahweh has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it." That word "leave" in verse 6 is number 7503. It's the word "rathah." It means to slacken. Do not slacken. Do not relax. Do not withdraw. Don't let anything drop. He will not leave you. Same thing. He will not withdraw his hand from holding you up. That word "forsaken" or "forsake." He will not leave you nor forsake you. Numbers 58:09, Azav, and it means to give up to destruction. He will not give you up to destruction. We must have faith in what His Word says. We must believe that He will deliver us, preserve us, enrich us when we walk in that obedience. Verse 7 again, Moshe called Yehoshua and said to him in the sight of all Israel, be strong and of good courage, for you must go with this people to the land which Yahweh has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall cause them to inherit it. In the garden, when Messiah was praying, and then Moses and Elijah came to him, remember, then they were glorified out there where he was, and what did they come to him for? To strengthen him for what he was fixing to go through. Is that what it says? They came and appeared to and strengthened him. What does this say? Moshe called Yehoshua and said to him, be strong and of good courage. Exactly the same thing. They were strengthening Yehoshua for the task ahead. Now in this verse, you know, in this verse he calls him, you know, Yehoshua. Or we have the word Joshua, Yehoshua from the text, right? The first mention of Yehoshua was back in Exodus 17:9. In Numbers we saw then where the name got changed. The first messenger we have of the tribe of Ephraim was named what? Yehoshua, from the tribe of Ephraim. Hosea. The book of Hosea is also the prophet of destruction to the house of Israel. Yehoshua was sent to restore the house of Israel. Okay. Verse 8. And Yahweh, He is the one who goes before you. He will be with you. He will not leave you nor forsake you. Do not fear nor be dismayed. So Moshe wrote this law and delivered it to the priests, the sons of Levi, who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, and to all the elders of Israel. And Moshe commanded them, saying, at the end of 7 years, at the appointed time in the year of release, at the Feast of Tabernacles, when all Israel comes to appear before Yahweh Elohim in the place which He chooses, you shall read this Torah before all Israel in their hearing. How many can sit here right now and we'll go back and start in Genesis 1 and read the whole thing? I mean, stop and think about it. There's not very many people could handle that. I mean, you know. Verse 12, gather the people together, men and women and little ones, and the stranger who is within your gates, that they may hear and that they may learn to fear Yahweh Elohim, and carefully observe all the words of this Torah. The word carefully there is 8104, shamar. Observe, 62:13 means to do. Verse 13, and their children who have not known may hear and learn to fear Yahweh Elohim, or Elohim, as long as you live in the land when you cross the Yarden to possess. Then Yahweh said to Moshe, behold, the days approach when you must die. Call Yehoshua and present yourselves in the tabernacle of meeting, that I may inaugurate him, or commission him. So Moshe and Yehoshua went and presented themselves in the tabernacle of meeting. Now Yahweh appeared at the tabernacle in the pillar of cloud, and the pillar of cloud stood above the door of the tabernacle. And Yahweh said to Moshe, behold, you will rest with your fathers, and this people will rise and play the harlot with the gods of the foreigners of the land where they go among them, and they will forsake me and break my covenant which I have made with them. That's a flat statement of fact. Something's going to happen. That's not even a prophecy. That's a statement. It will come to pass. Verse 17, he said, then my anger shall be aroused against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured. As we think back to the Holocaust. So many millions of the Jewish people were destroyed, by a nation and language, and people and all this kind of stuff. As we read these verses of Scripture in Deuteronomy and realize when all these were written and this all came to pass, and people, most all of them reject Messiah Yehoshua, but they can remember thinking back at the time when they were in the concentration camps and some of those others, and the question was, where is God? And yet all that time he had prophesied of who he was and who he was going to be. Remember, in his name he said, I will be who I will be. And that's been so distorted to this I am that I am thing until nobody ever bothers to go back and look at the Scriptures to who he said he was going to be. And since they didn't look for him, didn't expect him, then they didn't know him. And they went to their death. And yet this talks about it. Notice again in verse 17, then my anger shall be aroused against them in that day, and I will forsake them. I'll hide my face from them. They shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, have not these evils come upon us, because Elohe is not among us? Remember what they were saying back then? Where is he? Where is God? Verse 18, I will surely hide my face in the day because of all the evil which they have done, and that they have turned to other gods. How many years have they rejected Messiah? But how many years has it been since they've been taught a false Messiah instead of the real one? Yahweh says his word, his covenant is forever. And yet organized religion have been teaching a Messiah who came to do away with the law. Is that not a lie? Is that not a farce? Verse 19, now therefore write down this song for yourselves. See, here's the prophecy of the song that Moses writes in what we call Deuteronomy chapter 32. Write down this song for yourselves and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. This song is going to be sung, according to Revelation 15, in the future. When I have brought them to the land flowing with milk and honey, of which I swore to their fathers, and they have eaten and filled themselves and grown fat, then they will turn to other Elohim and serve them, and they will provoke me and break my covenant. That happened. When those people broke his covenant, do you think that he is going to get rid of his people and replace them with a bunch of Gentiles that are breaking the law? And then tell them it's okay, you can live any way you want to, and destroyed all these others for breaking his law? Does that make sense? And yet there's thousands and millions of people out there who believe that. Why? They're in darkness. Go over to Revelation. In in chapter 15, now remember we talked before about, we're not going to go into any depth right now, we talked about the beast, and we've talked about the political system, that the leader, the beast is the political system, and it has a leader and so forth. But here in chapter 15 and verse 1 he said, then I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them the wrath of El is complete. The wrath, this was all prophesied back in Torah and the prophets that it was going to come to pass. And I saw like a sea of glass mingled with fire, and those who have the victory over the beast, over his image and over his mark and over the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, having harps of El. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of Yahweh, and the song of the Lamb, saying. We're not going to read that part, but let's just go back and read that again. Verse 19 of Deuteronomy 31. Now therefore write down this song for yourselves and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel. And Revelation said they're going to sing this song during the time of his wrath. Has yet to come to pass. Verse 20, when I have brought them to the land flowing with milk and honey, of which I swore to their fathers, and they have eaten and filled themselves and grown fat, then they will turn to other gods and serve them, and they will provoke me and break my covenant. Then it shall be, when many evils and troubles have come upon them, that this song will testify against them as a witness, for it will not be forgotten in the mouths of their descendants. For I know the inclination of their behavior today, even before I have brought them to the land of which I swore to give. Somebody's going to have to know this song. Somebody's going to help be able to witness this song to the people, even today, the descendants, those who don't understand. Verse 22, therefore Moshe wrote this song the same day and taught it to the children of Israel. Then he inaugurated or commissioned Yehoshua ben Nun, Yehoshua the son of the Eternal, and said, be strong and of good courage, for you shall bring the children of Israel into the land of which I swore to them, and I will be with you. So it was when Moshe had completed writing the words of this law, this Torah, in a book, when they were finished, that Moshe commanded the Levites who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, saying, take this book of the Torah, and put it inside, or put it in the side of the ark of the covenant of the Yahweh Elohim, that it may be there as a witness against you. For I know your rebellion, and your stiff neck. If today, while I am yet alive with you, you have been rebellious against Yahweh, then how much more after my death? Gather to me all the elders of your tribes and your officers, that I may speak these words in their hearing, and call heaven and earth to witness against them. For I know that after my death you will become utterly corrupt, and turn aside from the way which I have commanded you, and evil will befall you in the latter days, because you will do evil in the sight of Yahweh, to provoke him to anger through the work of your hands. Do you think a lot of the evil that's coming on those people today is because of this very word right here? And a lot of them have not turned back. In fact, the words from one of their great leaders the other day, was quoted as saying, the Palestinians deserve a state. Anybody with any sense, if you go back and study the history of it, realize that until 1948, there wasn't even any kind of people called Palestinians. Wasn't no such thing. It's funny that nobody could have been called a Palestinian until after the Romans gave the land of Israel the name Palestine. Before that, they were what? They were all Arabs. Verse 30, then Moshe spoke in the hearing of all the congregation of Israel the words of this song until they were ended. That concludes the reading in the Torah for this day. Before we read Ezekiel, if y'all will, go with me to the book of Ecclesiastes. I think it's kind of a fitting book that we read this today along with this passage, because it outlines, and I know a lot of people think, oh well, Solomon, he was turning away from Yahweh and he was doing all them bad things and all this kind of stuff, and I'm not trying to glorify what he did, because yeah, he did do a lot of that, but the scriptures tell us he still wrote words of truth. Okay? Regardless of anything else, the words he wrote were words of truth, and these words are based on what Torah said. The book of Ecclesiastes, and the word Ecclesiastes, this means what? Preacher. Kind of like a ecclesia, the called out one, the ones who come out to hear the preaching of the preacher. It's really a short book. Goodness gracious, it's only got 12 chapters. Y'all ready? The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. He's saying it's futility, worthlessness, worthlessness, worthlessness. It's all worthless. What is worthless? Everything other than the word of Yahweh That's what he's finding out, because he's tempted and tried everything else and found out it was all worthless no matter what. Verse 3, what profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away and another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. See, the earth is one of those witnesses. The sun also rises, the sun goes down and hastens to the place where it arose. Now we know that the sun doesn't come up and go down, the earth turns around, it just appears that way, right? But that's a whole lot easier for people to explain. The wind goes toward the south and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually and comes again on its circuit. You know, it hadn't been too many years ago that weather people began to study and learn the weather patterns, and you know what they found out? The wind whirls around continually. And he told them that, didn't he? And comes again on its circuit. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. The place from which the rivers come, where they come from? I guess all that water in the sea that evaporates and goes up and rains back down and becomes a river. All things are full of labor. They're wearisome. Man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which has been is what will be. That's why we study the Word, to know what's going to come to pass. That which is done is what will be done, and there's nothing new under the sun. You know, I hear a while back, some of you, I think we got some emails, we sent them out to you, of some of the ancient hieroglyphs that they found carved in the stones, you know, and some of the columns in Egypt and so forth. And on some of those things had fallen off, and they come to find out that they were just a facade for carvings that were underneath them, and underneath carvings were pictures of airplanes and helicopters and all that kind of stuff. I wonder where they came from. Way back before the Egyptians did their thing. Verse 10. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been an ancient time before us. There's no remembrance of former, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come, but those who will come after. I, the preacher, was king over Israel in Jerusalem, and I set my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all that is done under heaven. This grievous task El has given to the sons of man, by which they may be exercised or afflicted. I have seen all the works that are done under the sun, and indeed all is vanity and grasping for the wind. You know, if all the world, if we were living in this world, but yet we know that this world is just the beginning of something. For all eternity is our future with Him, is it not? But where would we ever learn to choose the good and refuse the bad if it wasn't here on this earth? So this whole length of our time here is to learn to be obedient to His Word. And the thing that He gives us now is what teaches us how to walk with Him. Verse 15, what is crooked cannot be made straight, what is lacking cannot be numbered. I communed with my heart, saying, look, I have attained greatness and have gained more wisdom than all who were before me in Jerusalem. My heart has understood great wisdom and knowledge, and I set my heart to know wisdom and to know madness and folly. I perceive that this also is grasping for the wind. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he who increases knowledge increases sorrow. Tell you what, if you stop and think about that, the more we learn and the more we recognize how many people out there have refused the truth, does that not create a great sorrow in our hearts? I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with mirth, therefore enjoy pleasure, but surely this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it's madness, and of mirth, what does it accomplish? I searched in my heart how to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their life. He's searching for what's good for man to do, right? I made my works great. I built myself houses and planted myself vineyards. I made myself gardens and orchards, and I planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made myself water pools from which to water the growing trees of the grove, I acquired male and female servants and had servants born in my house. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks than all who were in Jerusalem before me. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the special treasures of kings and of the provinces. I acquired male and female singers, the delights of the sons of men, musical instruments of all kinds. So I became great and excelled more than all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor. And this was my reward, or my portion from all my labor. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had made, or had done, and on the labor in which I had toiled. And indeed all was vanity and grasping for the wind. There is no profit under the sun. Hear what he's saying. There ain't nothing you can get involved in that's going to give you any kind of profit. The only profit comes from walking in obedience to Yahweh's word. We're going to see that a little later. Verse 12, then I turned myself to consider wisdom and madness and folly. For what can the man do who exceeds the king? Only what he's already done. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly, as light excels darkness. But what does the scripture tell us the beginning of wisdom is? The fear of Yahweh. That's the beginning of wisdom. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I myself perceive that the same event happens to them all. We all have trouble. We all have tribulation. It's how you react to them and what you do, right? So I said in my heart, if it happens to the fool, it also happens to me. And why was I then more wise? And I said in my heart, this also is vanity. For there's no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever, since all that now is will be forgotten in the days to come. And how does a wise man die? As the fool. They all die the same way. And yet we today, we look at things, in our television shows, on Discovery channels and all this kind of stuff, and they're out there looking at all this kind of stuff, and the first thing they say, how in the world did they make all these stones to go in these pyramids? How did they do these things? Nobody knows, so everybody's out there trying to figure out how they done it, and they all come up with all kinds of sorts of contraptions and so forth on how they could have done it, right? How could they have moved a stone bigger than a city bus, or whatever? They don't know. A lot of these things that they say move, we don't even have equipment today that can move them. And yet they did it.
We're smarter.
Yeah, we're smarter than they are, right? Verse 17, therefore I hated life, because the work that was done under the sun was grievous to me, for all is vanity and grasping for the wind. Then I hated all my labor in which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. And who knows whether he will be a wise or a fool. Yet he will rule over all my labor in which I toiled, and in which I have shown myself wise under the sun. This also is vanity. Therefore I turned my heart and despaired of all the labor in which I had toiled under the sun. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, yet he must leave his heritage or his portion to a man who has not labored for it. This also is vanity and a great evil. We think sometimes we need to create all these vast empires to leave it to our children as an inheritance, right? And they didn't have to do anything to get it. What do they do with it? They either destroy it, turn it into something else, or just forget the whole thing and go off and whatever. Verse 22, for what has man for all his labor and for the striving of his heart with which he has toiled under the sun? For all his days are sorrowful and his work grievous. Even in the night his heart takes no rest. This also is vanity. There is nothing better for a man that he should eat and drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw is from the hand of Elohim. For who can eat or who can have enjoyment more than I? This man was receiving tribute from what? 150 or 60 nations around the world. People were coming to eat at the king's table. Even when the Queen of Sheba came up, as she had heard of all the glory and everything of Solomon, what did she say? Man, this is nothing. What I'm seeing here is a whole lot more than anything I ever heard. What she had heard was nothing compared to what was really there. Verse 26, for Elohim gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight. Notice what he's saying. He gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight, but to the sinner he gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before Elohim. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. To everything there is a season, an appointed time. A time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, a time to die. Actually, a time to be born is a time to bear, is what it says in Hebrew. A time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck that which is planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. It's His wisdom which gives us the perception to perceive these various times and act accordingly. People out there in the world making songs about this kind of stuff have no idea what they're singing about. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. What profit has the worker from that in which he labors? I have seen the ill-given task with which the sons of men are to be occupied. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, He has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that El does from beginning to end. It's a pretty strong statement, isn't it? Everybody's out there looking for Yahweh somewhere, but where is He? He's in His Word. I know that there's nothing better for them than to rejoice and to do good in their lives, and also that every man should eat and drink and enjoy the good of all his labor. It is the gift of Yahweh. I know that whatever Elohim does, it shall be forever. Now Solomon said this, I know that whatever Elohim does, it shall be forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. Now that goes against all that people saying it was done away with, huh? Elohim does that men should fear before Him. That which is has already been. And what is to be has already been. And Elohim requires an account of what is past. Or literally, He requires an account of that which you pursue. That which is pursued. Moreover, I saw under the sun, in the place of justice and judgment, wickedness was there, and in the place of righteousness, iniquity was there. I said in my heart, Elohim shall judge the righteous and the wicked, for there shall be a time there for every purpose and for every work. I said in my heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, Elohim test them that they may see that they themselves are beasts. For what happens to the sons of men also happens to beasts. One thing befalls them, as one dies, so dies the other. Surely they all have one breath. Man has no advantage over beasts, for all is vanity. All go to one place, all are from the dust, and all return to dust. Who knows the spirit of the sons of men, which goes upward, and the spirit of the beast, which goes down to the earth? If men are just following the things of the world, and not Yahweh's word, then there is no difference between them and the beast of the field. It's only our obedience to His word that makes a difference. Verse 22, so I perceive that there is nothing better than a man should rejoice in his own works, for that is his heritage. For who can bring him to see what will happen after him? If you ignore what Yahweh's word says, then who can bring you to see what's going to take place later? You can't make anybody see if they're not walking in obedience to His word. Then I returned and considered all the oppression that's done under the sun, and look, the tears of the oppressed, but they have no comforter. On the side of their oppressors was power, but they have no comforter. Therefore I praise the dead who are already dead, more than the living who are still alive. Yet better than both is he who has never existed. He says never be born, right? And he's saying it's better. Who has not seen the evil work that is done under the sun. We don't have to go very far to look at the evil. We see destruction come upon this earth, like what just took place down in New Orleans. And what are these people trying to do? They're trying to rebuild so they can get ready for what? Mardi Gras. Another evil under the sun. Again, I saw that for all toil and every skillful work, a man is envied by his neighbor. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. The fool folds his hands and consumes his own flesh. Better is a handful with quietness than both hands full, toil and grasping for the wind. Then I returned and I saw vanity under the sun. There is one alone without companion. He has neither son nor brother, yet there is no end to all his labors, nor is his eye satisfied with riches. The implication is, but he never asked, for whom do I toil and deprive myself of good? People call workaholics. All they do is work, don't do nothing, right? But this also is vanity and a grave misfortune or an evil task. Two are better than one, because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, one will lift up his companion, but woe to him who is alone when he falls, for he has no one to help him up. Again, if two lie down together, they will keep warm, but how can one be warm alone? Though one may be overpowered by another, two can withstand him, and a threefold cord is not quickly broken. Better is a poor and wise youth than an old and foolish king who will be admonished no more. The wise youth changes as he learns, right? Verse 14, for he comes out of prison to be king, although he was born poor in his kingdom. I saw all the living who walk under the sun. They were with the second youth who stands in his place. There was no end of all the people over whom he was made king, yet those who come after will not rejoice in him. Surely this also is vanity and grasping for the wind. Sounds an awful lot like Messiah Yehoshua coming up out of becoming king. And yet a lot of people not ever receiving him or accepting him as king. Walk prudently when you go to the house of El, and draw near to hear rather than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they do not know that they do evil. What is a sacrifice of fools? Their mouth. Do not be rash with your mouth, and let not your heart utter anything hastily before Elohim, for El is in heaven and you on earth. Therefore let your words be few. For a dream comes through much activity, and a fool's voice is by his many words. When you make a vow to Elohim, do not delay to pay it. You know, this really goes back, and we talked about it in Torah, where he said if you make a vow, you better be sure, that you pay it, because if you don't, then you'll be found a liar. When you make a vow to Elohim, do not delay to pay it, for he has no pleasure in fools. Pay what you have vowed. It is better not to vow than to vow and not pay. Do not let your mouth cause your flesh to sin, nor say before the messenger of El that it was an error. Why should El be angry at your excuse and destroy the work of your hands? For in the multitude of dreams and many words there is also vanity. But fear Elohim. If you see the oppression of the poor and the violent perversion of justice and righteousness in a province, do not marvel at the matter. For high official watches over high official, and higher officials are over them. Moreover, the profit of the land is for all. The king himself is served from the field. The profit of the land is for all. In Deuteronomy, Yahweh told us that he gives us all the ability to gain wealth in order to establish his covenant in the earth. That's for the profit of all. Verse 10, he who loves silver will not be satisfied with silver, nor he who loves abundance with increase. This also is vanity. When goods increase, they increase who eat them. So what profit have the owners except to see with their eyes? The sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of the rich will not permit him to sleep. He's still trying to figure out ways to keep what he got. There is a severe evil I have seen under the sun, riches kept for their owner to his hurt. But those riches perish through misfortune or bad business. When he begets a son, there's nothing in his hand. As he came from his mother's womb, naked shall he return, to go as he came, and he shall take nothing from his labor which he may carry away in his hand. This also is a severe evil. Just exactly as he came, so shall he go. And what profit has he who has labored for the wind? All his days he also eats in darkness, and he has much sorrow and sickness and anger. Here is what I have seen. It is good and fitting for one to eat and drink and to enjoy the good of all his labor in which he toils under the sun all the days of his life, which Elohim gives him, for it is his heritage. It's good to enjoy that work and everything. As for every man to whom El has given riches and wealth and given him power to eat of it, to receive his heritage and rejoice in his labor, this is the gift of Elohim. For he will not I can't read that word there. I got it messed up somehow or other in the Bible. For he will not what?
Dwell.
Not dwell on the days of his life, because Elohim keeps him busy with the joy of his heart. There is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men. A man to whom El has given riches and wealth and honor, so that he lacks nothing for himself of all he desires, yet Elohim does not give him power to eat of it, but a foreigner consumes it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease or affliction. If a man begets 100 children, is implied, and lives many years, so that the days of his years are many, but his soul is not satisfied with goodness, or indeed he has no burial, I say a stillborn child is better than he. For it comes in vanity and departs in darkness, and its name is covered with darkness. Though it has not seen the sun or known this, has more rest than that man, even if he lives 1,000 years twice over, but has not seen goodness. Do not all go to one place. It's a place of death. All the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the soul is not satisfied. Think about that. Men work like everything, trying to make sure they got food for everything for their mouth, okay? But yet his soul is not satisfied. For what more has the wise than the fool? What does the poor man have, who knows how to walk before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of desire. This also is vanity and grasping for the wind. What one is, he has been named already. For it is known that he is man, and he cannot contend with him who is mightier than he. Since there are many things that increase vanity, how is man the better? For who knows what is good for man in life, all the days of his vain life, which he passes like a shadow? Who can tell a man what will happen after him under the sun? A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. Boy, that's hard for us to accept or understand, okay? Because everything in us rises up, prevent us, sustain us, keep us from dying. And yet it says the day of birth, death is better than the birth. I would submit to you that that's true if a man knows where he's going. Verse 2, it's better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will take it to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter. For by a sad countenance the heart is made better. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. Better go to the house of mourning than a comedy house. These so-called places of fun and games and everything, where they talk about the place we call Disney World and all them others, It's a human trap run by a mouse or something like that. Verse 3 says, sorrow is better than laughter, for by a sad countenance the heart is made better. The heart of the wise is in the house of mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of mirth. It is better to hear the rebuke of the wise than for a man to hear the song of fools. For like the crackling of thorns under a pot, so is the laughter of the fool. This also is vanity. Surely oppression destroys a wise man's reason, and a bribe debases or destroys the heart. The end of a thing is better than its beginning, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Do not hasten in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosom of fools. Do not hasten to be angry. Verse 10, do not say, why were the former days better than these? For you do not inquire wisely concerning this. I don't know about a lot of people, but I would like to say that, man, we're in the best days we've ever had. And they're getting better, not looking back in the past. Verse 11, wisdom is good with an inheritance and profitable to those who see the sun. For wisdom is a defense, as money is a defense, but the excellence of knowledge is wisdom, giving life to those who have it. Consider the work of Elohim, for who can make straight what he has made crooked? In the day of prosperity be joyful, but in the day of adversity consider, surely Elohim has appointed the one as well as the other, so that man can find nothing that will alongside of him or happen. I have seen all in my days of vanity. There is a just who perishes in his righteousness. There is a wicked who prolongs his life in his wickedness. Do not be overly righteous, nor be overly wise. Why should you destroy yourself? Do not be overly wicked, nor be foolish. Why should you die before your time? It is good that you grasp this, and also not remove your hand from the other, for he who fears Elohim will escape them all. If you fear Elohim, you're going to escape everything. To fear means to what? To believe, listen to, and obey. Wisdom strengthens the wise more than 10 rulers of the city. For there is not a just man on earth who does good and does not sin. There ain't none. Everybody has sinned. Also, do not take to heart everything people say. That's pretty good, wisdom for today, isn't it? Lest you hear your servant cursing you. For many times also your own heart has known that even you have cursed others. All this I have proved by wisdom. I said, I will be wise, but it was far from me. As for that which is far off and exceedingly deep, who can find it out? I applied my heart to know, to search and seek out wisdom and the reason, to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness, and I find more bitter than death the woman whose heart is snares and nets, whose hands are fetters. He who pleases El shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. Here is what I have found, says the preacher, adding one thing to the other to find out the reason, which my soul still seeks, but I cannot find. One man among 1,000 I have found, but a woman among all these I have not found. Truly, this only I have found, that Elohim made man upright, but they have sought out many schemes. You go back to when he created Adam. He didn't make him a fool. He gave him all wisdom. And yet he chose to disobey. His wife just deceived, but he chose to disobey. Chapter 8 says, who is like a wise man, and who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face shine, and the sternness of his face is changed. I counsel you, keep the king's commandment for the sake of your oath to Elohim. Do not be hasty to go from his presence. Do not take your stand for an evil thing, for he does whatever pleases him. Where the word of the king is, power. Does that say that where the word of the king is power? And who may say to him, what are you doing? Who's going to question what the king does? He who keeps his command will experience nothing harmful, and the wise man's heart discerns both time and judgment. Because for every matter there is a time and judgment, though the misery of man increases greatly, for he does not know what will happen. So who can tell him when it will occur? No one has power over the spirit to retain the spirit, and no one has power in the day of death. There's no discharge in that war. Wickedness will not deliver those who are given to it. All this I have seen and applied my heart to every work that is done under the sun, the time in which one man rules over another to his own hurt. Then I saw the wicked buried, who had come and gone from the place of holiness, and they were forgotten in the city where they had so done. This also is vanity. Because the sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. Because the sentence is not executed quickly. We look at our society today, and this is supposed to be one of the greatest societies in the world, right? And how long does it take for a sentence against somebody found guilty to take place? My gosh, how long does it take sometimes before they ever even come to trial? Verse 12, though a sinner does evil 100 and his days are prolonged, yet I surely know it will be well with those who fear Elohim, who fear before him. But it will not be well with the wicked, nor will he prolong his days which are as a shadow, because he does not fear before Elohim. What happens if somebody dies while they're making up their mind to try to decide whether they want to obey Yahweh or not? Oops. Verse 14, there is a vanity which occurs on earth, that there are just men is implied, to whom it happens according to the work of the wicked. Again, there are wicked, to whom it happens according to the work of the righteous. I said that this is also is vanity. So I commended enjoyment, because a man is nothing better under the sun than to eat, drink, and be merry, for this will remain with him in his labor for the days of his life, which Elohim gives him under the sun. When I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to see the business that is done on earth, even though one sees no sleep day or night, then I saw all the work of Elohim, that a man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. For though a man labors to discover it, yet he will not find. Moreover, though a wise attempts to know, he will not be able to find. For I considered all this in my heart, so that I could declare it all, that the righteous and the wise and their works are in the hand of Elohim. People know neither love nor hatred by anything that is before them. What you can find between love or hatred is what is really obedience to Yahweh's word, and what is love, to obey his commandments. Verse 2, he says, everything occurs alike to all, one event to the righteous and the wicked, to the good, the clean, and the unclean, to him who sacrifices and him who does not sacrifice. As is the good, so is the sinner. He who takes an oath is he who fears an oath. This is an evil in all that is done under the sun, that one thing happens to all. Truly the hearts of the sons of men are full of evil. Madness is in their hearts while they live, and after that they go to the dead. But for him who is joined to all the living there is hope, for a living dog is better than a dead lion. You know, as long as you're alive, you still have the ability to make a choice. You can choose what you want to do. Once you're dead, you're dead. That's it. What else you know? Verse 5, for the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. What about those that are dead while they walk? We call them the living dead, the walking dead, right? For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing, and they have no more reward, for the memory of them is forgotten. Also their love, their hatred, and their envy have now perished. Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. Listen very carefully to that statement, and then think about all these things and all these religions and so forth that deal with the dead and the departed spirits and bringing up spirits and all this kind of stuff. He said when they're dead, what? Nevermore will they have a share in anything done under the sun. They do not have a share in anything done under the sun. Verse 7, go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart. For Elohim has already accepted your works. Let your garments always be white, and let your head lack no oil. How can your garments always be white if your garments are the righteous acts of the saints walking in obedience to Yahweh's word? Verse 9, live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun, all your days of vanity, for that is your portion in life and in the labor which you perform under the sun. That's our portion. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. You know, people today say, oh, well, I wonder what Yahweh wants me to do. What does that say? Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. Verse 11, I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill, but time and chance happen to them all. For man also does not know his time, like fish taken in a cruel net, like birds caught in a snare, so the sons of men are snared in evil time, when it falls suddenly upon them. Everything we've been studying in Torah, and everything that we've read today especially, and last week, talks about what? Blessing and cursing, based on obedience to his word. Okay? You think you can go through life and create and cause these things to happen, good, bad, or indifferent, right? And in reality, you can't do anything in this life. Things happen to everybody, good or bad. Doesn't matter. The only way that you can ensure the good and the bad in your life is to walk in obedience to Yahweh's word and let his word and your obedience to it bring the blessings and let those who don't get the curses. That's the choice that you have to make. That's why he said, I set before you this day life and blessings, death and curses. You choose. That's everything that Solomon is writing about. Men left to their own devices, left to their own ways, doing what they want to do, can't affect anything one way or the other, because everything that's set in this world is set because he said it. Everything out there does what it does because that's what he intended for it to do. Animals do what animals are intended to do, right? Well, when you leave him, then you're no better off than any animal. You're going to go the way of the world, and it's all worthless and vanity. Verse 13, this wisdom I have also seen under the sun that seemed great to me. There was a little city with few men in it. And a great king came against it, besieged it, and built great snares around it. Now there was found in it a poor wise man, and he by his wisdom delivered the city, yet no one remembered that same poor man. Then I said, wisdom is better than strength. Nevertheless, the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are not heard. You know, think about all the time people say, well, you know, if you had a degree, you know, I'd listen. But if you got a degree from some seminary somewhere, people listen to them. But if you ain't been to school, if you ain't got that degree, if you haven't been approved by men, then you're not accepted. Verse 17, words of the wise, spoken quietly, should be heard, rather than the shout of a ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. Dead flies putrefy the perfumer's ointment. You can be so careful, but then them dead flies get in there and mess up everything and cause it to give off a foul odor. So does a little folly to one respected for wisdom and honor. The wise man's heart is at his right hand, but a fool's heart is his left. Even when the fool walks along the way, he lacks wisdom, and he shows everyone that he is a fool. If the spirit of the ruler rises against you, do not leave your post, for conciliation pacifies great offenses. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, as an error proceeding from the ruler. Folly is set in great dignity, while the rich sit in a lowly place. I have seen servants on horses, while princes walk on the ground like servants. He who digs a pit will fall into it. And whoever breaks through a wall will be bitten by a serpent. He who quarries stones may be hurt by them, and he who splits wood may be endangered by it. If the axe is dull and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength. But wisdom brings success. Think about that. You know, you can go out there just, you know, spending effort, but you got to be smarter than what you're working with, is what he's saying. Wisdom makes it better. If the axe is dull and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength. Isn't that what he's saying? Make it sharper and you don't have to work as hard. You got to be smarter. Verse 11, a serpent may bite when it is not charmed. The babbler is no different. The words of a wise man's mouth are gracious, but the lips of a fool shall swallow him up. The words of his mouth begin with foolishness, and the end of his talk is raving madness. A fool also multiplies words. No man knows what is to be. Who can tell him what will be after him? The labor of fools wearies them, for they do not even know how to go to the city. Woe to you, O land, when your king is a child and your princes feast in the morning. Does that sound like us? I mean, how many nations in the world right now have leaders in the nations that are really adult, grown people that know, you know, they're all children in the world. They don't know nothing. Blessed are you, O land, when your king is a son of nobles and your princes feast at the proper time, at the moed, for strength and not for drunkenness, because of laziness the building decays, and through idleness of hands the house leaks. A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything. That's a good one, isn't it? Do not curse the king even in your thought. Do not curse the rich even in your bedroom. For a bird of the air may carry your voice, and a bird in flight may tell the matter. It's kind of like your words can take flight, you know. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. It's kind of a tough thought, isn't it? Remember, water is a lot of times referred to as millions and lots of people, okay? You cast your bread, you feed as many as you can. And then what? For you will find it after many days. It'll come back to you. As you sow, so shall you reap. Give a serving to 7 and also to 8, for you do not know what evil will be on the earth. The clouds are full of rain, they empty upon the earth. And if a tree falls to the south or the north, in the place where the tree falls, there it shall lie. He who observes the wind will not sow. He who regards the clouds